So this may get a little blurry because for one, I wasn't expecting to make a video, and for two, it is pretty windy outside today, but I came over here to check on my apple tree, which has several squash plants underneath it, which are doing amazing, and I was so excited not to have any squash bug issues so far. However, look at this. It's absolutely covered in aphids. And there are even little eggs on it, which probably are from some sort of caterpillar that feeds on this tree. Likely apples. And look, there are just so many of them. Last year we had an issue with aphids on this tree because of the amount of sooty mold that we had. However, it is so early in the year and there's no sooty mold yet. I'm sure it'll be here because it is hot and humid in southeast Texas, so 9A. So at the very least, at least we get this really cool up close and personal video of these aphids, and you can kind of see how they move around. I do not spray my apple trees, although at this point I'm really considering some kaolin clay, which is just fine clay particles to spray on this because this is getting ridiculous. In most of our garden, we actually have a lot of lady beetles, and I've created an environment to harvest the, well, to host them, I don't know why I said harvest them, where they feel comfortable laying their eggs, and so we have future generations of them. And between those and the ants, they kind of keep our aphids under control. However, by this apple tree, it is alone in the middle of the yard. We haven't planted flowers or anything else around it, and you can definitely see the kind of issues that that's caused so far right here. So what I'm going to do about this is take this leaf off altogether by leaf, because yeah, it seems that most of the aphids are kind of stuck on these couple of leaves. Look at this one. I mean, wow, this is crazy. You can smush aphids. You'll get this nasty green sticky stuff on your fingers, but hey, you can smush them. Sorry, it's kind of up close. You're not able to see a lot. I'm checking the leaves for any more aphids. I do not see any. Oh, no, I was wrong. There are some, and they all seem to be confined to these very small tender leaves. So here's some more. And they just look like little green bubbles everywhere, right? And our apple tree has a lot of new growth on it because of the storm damage it took. So all that new growth is really attracting all of these aphids who drink the sap out of plants. So you can see our apple tree and how it broke. This tree used to be like 8 feet tall. It is a dwarf variety, so it will not get much taller than this thanks to everything getting busted out. Actually, I take that back. It may be a semi-dwarf variety, but it still only gets about 14 to 15 feet tall, and unfortunately it had over 4 feet knocked off of it a couple years ago. So unless another main leader comes off, which we tried to grow here and nothing came of it, then it will just be a really funny looking apple tree. But because this is one of the first trees that we planted here at our home, we don't want to chop it down. It's more sentimental than anything, so hopefully it stays healthy enough we can keep it. But the aphids are definitely going to be an issue. Just so disappointing, really. This apple variety only requires about 100 to 150 chill hours, so it's really good for the Gulf Coast region. It's just a matter of getting it back to where it needs to be with that huge portion of it being chopped off. And unfortunately, I think it makes it kind of susceptible to aphids and other pests. And also I have this worry about things kind of getting into this trunk, so I may have to put some kind of paste on it to protect it from borers in the future. The sad thing is, if this thing doesn't get where it can produce apples or it gets any more unhealthy, we might have to take it out. So that's really disappointing since it is one of the first trees we ever planted, and I really do love this tree. It is fruit bearing age, and it has developed fruit in the past, which we removed because of the damage to this tree. So I guess we'll just kind of see what happens with it. I definitely want to get some more apple trees, but I'm gonna have to figure out a better solution for aphids out here, or I'm really gonna have to concentrate in actually expanding the garden out here, because you can see it's just grass and wildness all around it. It's just kind of all by itself. The closest garden is 120 feet in either direction. So that's something that I need to focus on. Maybe some trap crops, or just something to attract pollinators and draw away all of these pesky little aphids. So this isn't a really crazy in-depth video, but I thought, hey, I came out here to check on these squash and I saw these aphids. This would make a really cool video and a really cool up close about what aphids are. But as a closing thought, let's go ahead and check out these squash that we planted below the apple tree. I know there are a lot of people who say, hey, don't plant your squash or other plants around your trees, but I disregard that, because as you can see, they're doing really well. They're planted fairly close together, so this will fill out this whole area, which will help retain moisture. And in between the squash, I actually planted these onions, and this is not supposed to be in here. This is, I'll probably need to get a shovel and dig that out. But you can see I kind of planted these in between here. And look how good they are. They're all doing so well. I see a lot of little leaves and even potential more flowers developing over here too. Look at this. So that means that we are well on our way, and within the next month or so, we should have fruit production. And actually, I say that, and look, there's the first very tiny fruit of this plant right there. So it looks like we're well on our way. We actually got ahead of all of the squash bugs this year, which was my goal, to start plants indoors and get them big enough that squash bugs would not be an issue, and we would at least get more zucchini than we did last year, which was the first successful year that we grew zucchinis before our squash were decimated by squash beetles. And lo and behold, we still only got like 4 squash, so it wasn't a lot. So I'm way ahead of them. I planted 5 just in this area. I have several that you've seen throughout my gardens and the other garden beds that I'm developing. So wish me luck on that. If you have any ideas on how to control aphids, please, no crazy spray methods unless it's absolutely to that point, because I prefer more natural approach. So trap crops, anything of that nature. I'm not a huge fan of neem oil because it gets so hot here. It tends to fry my plants, plus it can damage other pollinators. I have used it in the past. It's just not my favorite thing, especially in this Texas heat. So it's almost like the equivalent of, even when we tried early morning spray, of basically throwing the leaves of my plants into fry oil, unfortunately. So if you have any ideas, let me know. Leave them in the comments below, and I'm going to go back to working around the yard and checking up my plants.